Welcome to Health News and Views, a podcast dedicated to bringing some clarity to the health disparities in the Black and Brown communities. If you believe there's a connection between food, sickness, and health, then you're in the right place. Let's begin the process of unraveling the truth. And now, your host, Lynn Pete.
Greetings and welcome back to another episode of Health News and Views, Food, the Final Frontier. Hi, I'm your host, Lynn Pete. Well, in today's episode, we're going to examine the relationship between what we eat, how we live, and what it may be costing us, both emotionally, financially, physically, and medically. And today's topic is also personal and sensitive, and it touches every family, nearly every family in America. Here's a statistic. Did you know that it's been estimated that 4 out of 5 Black women and teens in the U.S. are either overweight or obese? And I'm included in that number, by the way, just to let you know that I have a BMI, that's a body mass index, of 27, which places me right in the overweight category. Now, Black women have the highest rate of being overweight or obese compared to any other demographic group. And this is according to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. This is their statistic. But wait, let's first do the disclaimer that the subject matter provided in this podcast or any of our other published documents is for informational purposes only. Food, the Final Frontier, and our partner, Health News and Views. We do not attempt to treat, diagnose, or cure any disease or condition. Always check with your healthcare provider before making any lifestyle, dietary, or prescription drug changes. Now let's look at some more statistics, only because we need to have some groundwork. It's stated that in the 1950s, the average American woman weighed about 140 pounds. And today, the average American woman weighs about 170 pounds. And this information, too, is from the Centers for Disease Control. And this is not just an extra few pounds. It's been a national shift since 1950. Women are larger than they were 70 years ago. That's a national shift. And we may not have perfect records from the 1950s regarding Black and Brown communities, because oftentimes we weren't even included in these studies. But we do know this much, that the level of weight-related illnesses that we're seeing in these same communities, it didn't exist at this scale. Do you remember the kids on Soul Train? If you look at the clips from that show way back, maybe 1970s or so, you may notice that 95% of those dancers were skinny. That was the boys and the girls. Something happened after 1975. There have been changes in our food composition and the ingredients. And I think some of the food manufacturers have some ownership here. But before we go any further, just let me say this clearly. I am not coming to you as someone who has mastered this subject. I'm in food recovery too. With a BMI of 27, I'm certainly in the mix. So this conversation is not me pointing fingers. It is me extending a hand to let you know we're in this together. So this episode is not about blame. It's about food recovery. And trust me, this is not just my story. In my family alone, my daughter, my granddaughter, my nephew, and several of my nieces, because of a weight issue, have gone as far as bariatric surgery. And they go as far back as 2005 to current. And they have been making life-altering decisions just to take control of their health. And now we're seeing a new trend. Young people, 22, 28, 35-year-olds, the millennials even, are turning to medications like Ozempic and Wegovy. And many are these GLP-1, they call this the GLP-1 solutions. But, let me just say this carefully and respectfully. These tools may have a place, and I'm sure for someone who is really battling with their weight, and may possibly also be on the verge or already deeply embedded into type 2 diabetes. These tools have a place, but we have to ask ourselves a deeper question. Are we treating the cause, or are we managing the consequence? Because in my opinion, a pill with known side effects or an injection cannot be a long-term answer to a poor diet. So we're talking about obesity and overweight family members and friends here. And there are other factors that have to be considered, many of which are being paid every single day. There's emotional consequences, physical consequences, medical and financial consequences. So this is not about vanity. It's not about shaming anyone. It's not about perfection even. This is survival. It's about mobility. And this is a quality of life issue. And because sometimes the heaviest thing a person carries isn't in their hands. It's in their joints, bloodstream, medical charts, and sometimes it's in their heart. So let's talk about it. For years, weight has been reduced to a number on a scale, but excess weight can affect nearly every part of life. How you sleep, how you move, how you breathe, how you feel emotionally, how often will you need medications? How much money does that leave you in your pocket? And it also means how long and how well you may live. We're carrying not only extra pounds, but extra stress, extra responsibilities, trauma, and extra barriers to health. And what does that matter? It does, because there's an emotional cost tied to this. And that emotional toll comes from a struggle with, and I don't know if you're there, but I know a lot of folks who are, avoiding mirrors, avoiding photos, avoiding reunions and social events, feeling judged before speaking, depression, low self-confidence, anxiety in public spaces, and feeling tired and being possibly being mislabeled as lazy. Well, some of us, we laugh it off or we hide it really well. And some of us become the strong one while quietly hurting inside. And in many families and communities, pain gets normalized. But emotional suffering, it's real. But there's also a physical cost. And now let's talk about the mechanics of that. That extra weight can place tremendous stress on our knees, our hips, our lower back, that's me, ankles and feet. And when climbing stairs, that can be a challenge. Walking to the car and feeling exhausted. Simple errands just become draining. Many will experience maybe shortness of breath, sweating easily, fatigue, low stamina, poor sleep, snoring even, daytime exhaustion. By 2, 3 o'clock, I'm exhausted. That may signal sleep apnea, where breathing repeatedly stops during sleep. That's dangerous. People wake up tired and wonder why. There's medical costs that also accompany this extra pounds that we're carrying. And that excess weight often accompanies us with serious health conditions. Type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, stroke. These are 4 of the 7 chronic diseases that I talked about in the previous episode. And that's a lot. Fatty liver disease, that's a new one for non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which wasn't even discovered until about the 1980s, 1990s. They didn't have a name for it, didn't know why it was happening. Even arthritis. Many of these conditions begin quietly. No pain, no alarm bells, no warning signs, until one day you need medication, you're going for testing, you might need surgery, you need to change immediately because the financial cost, the other component here, is just as debilitating as those extra pounds. And that extra pounds and that extra weight can become expensive, not because of clothing sizes or you have to buy a bigger size. No. How about monthly prescriptions and co-pays, special visits, lab work, blood pressure monitors? All right, guys, who's on a CPAP machine out there? Missed days of work, reduced productivity, transportation to appointments. One preventable condition can become a permanent bill. We don't want that. Many families are paying medical costs for problems rooted in lifestyle, food, and chronic stress. So why is all this happening? This is not simply about willpower anymore. Actually, I did a podcast on that years ago about my friend Will Power. He left a long time ago. But wait, this is not about a weight loss journey only. For many of us, as I said before, this is food recovery. And many of us are surrounded by cheap, ultra-processed foods because it's easy, oversized portions, sugary drinks, late-night eating schedules. If you're eating about 10, 11 o'clock at night, your body is preparing for sleep. And now it has to stop doing that because it has to do a digestion schedule now with you. So, shift work exhaustion, there's stress eating. You eat chips just because you need something to crunch down on. Poor sleep. There's a lot of marketing aimed at our children too, especially for convenience foods that replace real meals. Like I'm going to call out Lunchables because that's what my nephew was eating until I had to stop that. I said, I'm not buying that anymore. When unhealthy calories become cheap and healthy food becomes expensive, what do? You're going to buy the cheaper food. It's just economically what we do. When stress stays high, though, and your hormones stay high, then the body stores that as weight, as more weight. Think of the cortisol as one of those hormones that generally our midsections tend to be a little bit larger than most people. Our waistline is larger than most because we stress about things that we probably can't do anything about. But there's good news, and there is a hopeful part. When we talk about a modest weight release, I didn't say loss. I remember I always tell you, people who lose things have a tendency to go back and find them. So we want to release some of the weight. And that could be 10 or 15 pounds. Or, what works better for me when I hear these numbers? 5 to 10% of that body weight could improve your blood pressure, your blood sugar, the joint pain, the stamina, the sleep quality, the confidence, and your mood. I know for a fact if I lose that 5 pounds, that low back pain tends to go away too. You do not need to be perfect. There's no perfection. We're not looking for perfection here. We just need progress. We need to do something. You don't need a beach body, not yet, but you do need a healthier body. So how are we going to do this? We're going to do some simple things. Think of the word walk. That's an acronym. The W in walk is water first. Drink water before drinking sweets, before you touch a sweet tea or a soda. The A is add movement. Walk 10 minutes after meals. The L is for make lower portions, some smaller plates and bowls. Some of us are guilty of eating from a serving platter. I'm just kidding about that. But if your plate is larger than 7 inches, and I'm not talking 9 to 10 inch plate, the plate can make a significant reduction in our intake. And I want you to think about this. I was typing this and putting this together. I thought about, did you ever go to all those all-you-can-eat buffets? They give you a 7-inch plate. You can go back as often as you want, but the plate remains 7 inches. Do the same thing at home and keep the turkey platters for the turkey. Anyway, the K is for keep going. Consistency. Your consistency will always beat intensity. If you can, save your money. Cook at least 2 of your meals at home weekly. When I say save your money, it's like the ordering out just because it's convenient. You have no idea what they're putting in your food because you don't control the dose. So at least 2 of your meals, make those at home. Eat a protein at your breakfast. If for those of you who do eat breakfast, I don't always eat breakfast, but my first meal of the day, even if it's 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I try to make sure that I'm putting protein in, because that will help control our hunger. And that's also, we get satiety or satisfaction from having that. We're going to start cutting the sodas, the frops, and the lattes. And we have to do it gradually. I'm not saying just, cold turkey that. But stop eating 2 hours before going to bed. That's another one. Those late night snacks and things, if you're eating before you go to bed, that's, you may notice too, and when you eat late at night, when you get up in the morning, you're still hungry. Weigh yourself. Yeah, do it, but not monthly. Don't try to do it daily. You become obsessive that way. I want to leave you with this. The Black and brown communities have survived much heavier burdens than this. We've overcome obstacles before, but now we must stop normalizing sickness. And this is a sickness, and it's taken a toll on us. Again, physically, emotionally, financially. We must stop accepting fatigue as normal, and we must stop calling symptoms, Joe, I'm just getting older. No, you're not. You're getting better, because sometimes the weight we carry can be a put down. One meal, one walk, one decision, one day at a time. That's how we're going to have to do it. This has been Health News and Views, Food, the Final Frontier, saying to you, make it a powerful day. Be blessed, be wise, and take care of yourself. And remember, you are stronger than you think, smarter than you realize, and we are the direct descendant of the survivors of the Middle Passage. God's got you. Peace.